Jersey, clearly headed toward New York.
I know that an airplane has hit the Trade Center, but we were still hoping that the United was not going to do that.
Until now, controllers thought, hoped, the plane was headed toward Kennedy Airport to land. But with each second, it is becoming more clear that whoever is in control of the cockpit of the United plane has a different plan. New York Center alerts another nearby air traffic facility, the one responsible for lower altitude planes.
I got a call from New York Center saying we have an aircraft at 24,000 feet. He's not talking to anybody. We don't know where he's going.
Don Kribolevy is on duty that morning. His colleagues, John Smith, John Riccardi, and Dean Jacopelli.
Probably 10 miles into my airspace, he started descending. I pointed him out to John.
And said, watch this aircraft. It's coming through. We don't know what's going to happen.
And we just watched him go down.
8:53 a.m. It has just been over 6 minutes since American 11 hit the North Tower. By now, NORAD, responsible for the defense of North American airspace, has scrambled 2 F-15 fighter jets from Otis Air Force Base in Massachusetts. They streak towards New York, but already they're too late. The rest of the country, watching on television, still believes the crash in New York is an accident. But these controllers, now watching in horror as the second plane bears down on lower Manhattan, are the first to know the awful truth.
We know he's going to crash. That's pretty much a given. We don't know where he's going to crash.
I think we all knew that something was going to happen, be it the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building.
It was highlighted to me so that I could watch it as it came in from the southwest and then made a direct turn towards the South Tower.
When it made that direct turn, did you think, oh my God?
They thought it was a fighter jet coming in to cover the city. As it turned out, it just continued to descend through 5,000 feet and lower.
And that's when my suit came up and said, you could probably consider him a terrorist at this point. And you kind of just turn around and got this kind of empty feeling.
It was helpless. You couldn't do it.
Yeah. You sit there for 10 years controlling planes. For the first time in your life, you don't have any control of this at all.
At Newark Tower, Bob Barcatapane is still on the phone with the controller at the New York Center and learns that a second plane has been hijacked and is almost on top of Manhattan.
He says to me, as a matter of fact, do you see that target coming over the Verrazano Bridge? I went over to the radar and looked at the radar. The Verrazano Bridge is depicted on the radar.
Right.
And I looked over there and I saw the aircraft descending at 4,700 feet, 3,600 feet, 2,700 feet.
I can hear him calling on altitudes. I have a target in sight. He's descending rapidly. And he said, look out to the southeast. And the gentleman working ground control said, hey, who's that? By the Verrazano Bridge. And here comes a very large target, descending rapidly, very fast.
He was in a hard right bank, diving very steeply and very fast. And he, as he was coming up the Hudson River, he made another hard left turn and just heading for downtown Manhattan.
It was fast, very fast.
Really moving.
He was moving fast.
Anybody in the room say anything at that point, or are you just transfixed by what you were saying?
Well, that pretty much confirmed all our worst fears as to if there's anything in the back of your mind saying maybe this just was something minor. Basically, there's a moment of silence, and then things really started to move.
You could see that he was trying to line himself up on the tower. Just before he hit the tower, he almost leveled it out and just hit the building. I was still talking to the center at that time, and I just said, oh my God, just hit the World Trade Center. And you could see him go in the side of the building, and then you just saw the flames and explosion erupting out the other side of the building.
What was going on in this room at that time?
There was disbelief. They couldn't believe what we just saw.
They knew it was coming, but until they saw it happen with their own eyes, it was too hard to believe. As the second strike plays out on live television, the rest of the country is also in shock, finally understanding what these controllers already knew. America is under attack. Controllers in the tower immediately wonder, could there be a third attack on the way? Supervisor Bob Barcatapane takes immediate action.
I immediately went to the phone and called Washington, D.C. to tell them that Newark was ceasing operations. We were not moving any airplanes.
Who did you call in Washington?
I called the Air Traffic Control System Command Center.
You have a hotline right in?
Yes, I have a phone directly to that center. told them that Newark was ceasing operations. We would not accept any aircraft landing at Newark Airport. My main concern was keeping airplanes out of this airspace. New York City was just attacked twice, so then we shut down, I believe that was the beginning of shutting down the National Airspace System.
As Newark controllers shut down their airport, they have no way of knowing that one of their own planes, United Flight 93, cleared for takeoff only moments before the first tower was hit, is about to face its own crisis. At yet another air traffic control center in Cleveland, Stacey Taylor is keeping a close eye on her flights. The FAA is warning controllers to watch transcontinental flights headed west for anything suspicious. And then, something very suspicious does happen.
I hear one of the controllers behind me go, oh my God, and he starts yelling for the supervisor. He goes, what is this plane doing? What is this plane doing? I wasn't that busy at the time, and I pulled it up on my screen, and he was climbing and descending, but very gradually. Go up 300 feet, you go down 300 feet. And it turned out to be United 93.
By this time, United Airlines has warned crews still in the air about the potential for a hijacking. Electronic messages, similar to an email, have been transmitted to pilots. Beware cockpit intrusion, the message read. The pilots on Flight 93 typed back, confirmed. Message received. Back in New York, controllers braced themselves for another possible assault on their airspace.
I was wondering what else was going to get hit, how many more times this would happen, where it would happen.
But at that point, it was what was next.
9:30 a.m. at Washington's Dulles Airport, controllers also on high alert. But what they don't know is that one of their own flights is now missing. American 77. Flight 77 has been out of contact with controllers in Indianapolis for more than 20 minutes. Fighter jets are dispatched to track the flight, but the plane already has turned east, flying back over West Virginia toward Washington, D.C. Todd Lewis is working radar at Dulles Airport.
One of my colleagues saw a target moving quite fast from the northwest to the southeast. Nobody knew that was American 77.
What did you think? It was a military flight or something?
I thought it was a military flight. I thought that Langley had scrambled some fighters and maybe one of them got up there.
It was really moving fast.
It was moving very fast, like a military aircraft might move at a low altitude.
How long were you able to track what turned out to be Americans?
Well, it was heading right towards prohibited area in downtown Washington, and that covers the Capitol and the White House. We've been called the White House on the hotline and let them know.
Controllers activate a hotline at the Secret Service, and within seconds, agents are frantically evacuating the White House. The president is in Florida, but the Secret Service whisked Vice President Dick Cheney into an underground bunker.
Then it turned south and away from the prohibited area, which seemed like a momentary sigh of relief. And it disappears, but it was going away from Washington, which seemed to be the right thing.
But at 9:38 a.m., the plane does strike, crashing into the Pentagon.
Then there was no question that, yeah, it was a commercial flight. And you're wondering, we're being attacked. What's next?
Washington, D.C. is where United Flight 93 soon will be headed. As American Flight 77 was breaching Washington's airspace to eventually hit the Pentagon, back in the skies over Youngstown, Ohio, Flight 93 still is on course, now airborne for more than 50 minutes. But as Stacey Taylor and other controllers watch, the plane begins to suddenly change altitude, and the controller working Flight 93 hears a series of horrifying transmissions from the cockpit. Then, the voice of a hijacker. The controller tries repeatedly to contact the cockpit.
United 93, verify your terminal 350.
But there is no response.
United 93, Cleveland, do you still hear the center?
I was afraid of that flight. I see this plane climbed up from his assigned altitude to 35,000 feet to 41,000 feet, turned around and aimed right back at where we were, and descended rapidly. And when a plane descends too fast, the computer can't keep up with it, and you get X's in the altitude. was aimed at us and descending very, very rapidly. At that point, I knew it was confirmed hijacking. I didn't know where they were going, what they were doing.
We have all shuddered at the thought of what must have been going on in the cockpits of those hijacked airliners. It turns out the Cleveland controller working United Flight 93 at the time, along with supervisors, actually heard the sounds of the struggle in the cockpit.
I said, did you guys talk to them? Yeah, we talked to them. I said, what did the pilot? He said, it wasn't the pilots. He said, it was the hijackers. I said, the hijackers? I said, are you telling me the hijackers were talking to you on the frequency? He said, the pilot opened up the mic before. He said, we heard it all. I said, what? He said, we heard them being killed. And he said, we heard, and I said, don't tell me anymore. I said, I don't want to know anymore.
Like the other three planes before it, Flight 93 makes a radical turn east, shutting off the plane's transponder signal. Controllers can now only see a moving target on radar. They have no other flight information. Back at Newark Tower, where Flight 93 took off only an hour before, Bob Barcatapane is trading phone calls with the FAA Central Command Center in Herndon, Virginia. The command center is telling him there are at least 10 planes they're still suspicious of for one reason or another, all possible hijackers.